information on surrogacy.com, and I'd like to welcome you back to the next installment of my surrogacy video diaries. This is documenting my fourth and final journey as a surrogate mother. Now, we've just confirmed our match with Rachel and John, and the next thing that I want to talk to you about is the fact that during this journey, we do not have health insurance that will cover the surrogacy. So, when you do not have health insurance, there are 4 different options that you can take when proceeding with the surrogacy. The first option is before you're pregnant, you can actually go out and find an insurance policy. The problem with most of those policies is that it's going to be pretty expensive, sometimes just as expensive as paying cash for a journey to begin with. For example, I started looking into obtaining health insurance, and I found that the premiums were going to be around $450 a month. I had to have the policy for at least 2 months prior to conception, and it wasn't clear if conception was going to be the actual date of the transfer or if it was going to go 2 weeks back from my last menstrual period, which could have made a difference in this situation as we were less than 2 months out from the transfer to begin with. Now, after the costs were factored, there was also the fact that as I was trying to obtain information on the policy, I had to make sure that surrogacy was not excluded. But the insurance company would not give me the exclusions until after I had paid them. And it became this horrible catch-22. I kept asking for the exclusion for the member's handbook, and the insurance company told me that I couldn't have it until I was a member, which kind of didn't make sense to me. So I talked with my lawyer, and my attorney said, don't bother going through there to get insurance. That company nearly always excludes surrogacy anyway, and you're just going to have a lot of trouble. So we decided in the end that getting an insurance policy was not going to be the right option for this journey. Your second option is to pay cash straight out for all of your services. For the most part, that's going to be a payment straight to your doctor, your OBGYN, which runs around $3,000 depending on what area of the country you're in. You'll need to start calling, start with your own OBGYN and call around to others in the area if that's an option for you. Then you're also going to have to pay out of pocket for all the ultrasounds, all the blood work, lab work, anything like that. You'll also have the cost of the hospital for your delivery, which ranges from $2,000 to $3,500, depending on if you have a planned C-section, an emergency C-section. There could be other prices, other things in that price to take into consideration, depending on what happens during your hospital stay. And then another $1,000 or so to the anesthesiologist if you're going to get one. So you add all those things up, and it comes out to, $7,000, $8,000. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. This seemed like a decent option for us because after you factored in the deductibles and the cost of the insurance policy to begin with, it broke about even. The third option would be to pay cash for most things, but to add a surrogacy rider policy on there, which helped out with complications only. That would be anything other than a basic visit to your OBGYN or anything that would normally happen in a normal pregnancy. The problem with these kinds of options are a surrogacy rider will cost between $5,000 and $6,000 to begin with, and then it has a deductible of around $5,000. So you're more than $10,000 in before you can even use it. But it can be a good option for the worst case scenario. You get pregnant with quadruplets and end up on bed rest in the hospital for 6 months. That might be something that you would wish you had if you don't have any insurance whatsoever. But we've actually decided to go with option number 4, which is to use a medical discount program. The program that I use can be found here on my website. I've got links up right underneath this video for everybody to see. The program costs $50 a month. It is cheaper than paying cash straight out. They're going to save me between 20 and 80% off that cash price. Mainly for doctors, it would probably be around the 20% off. But for the lab fees and the ultrasounds, we'd see more substantial savings. It really depends on your area, what your providers, if your provider works with the program or not, that type of thing. And the hospital bill itself will be handled by the advocacy program after the visit is done. They'll go in and they'll negotiate a better than cash rate for us to be able to use the hospital facilities. And so we looked at all of these options, and we found that the medical discount program at $50 a month and paying cash for anything it didn't cover was probably our best option. Worst case scenario, something catastrophic happens and I do end up in the hospital on some sort of a complication. We do have the advocacy program that can actually reduce the bill down to $0 if necessary, depending on the circumstances. And at best case scenario, we don't need to use that at all. So I'm really comfortable in that decision versus getting an insurance policy, of course, using a surrogate mother that already has insurance that does not exclude surrogacy would be your best option. But sometimes going with somebody that is more experienced, or going with a family member or a close friend, or just somebody that you get along with better makes more sense. It's not always about money. A lot of times it's about the relationship you have with your surrogate mother, and money can be handled. So with that, I will leave you with this conclusion of this surrogacy video diaries, and I hope you'll join me for the next one. Thanks.